They say blood is thicker than water, that family will always have your back when the world turns against you. But nobody warns you that sometimes family is the knife, and your back is the target. I never imagined my own daughter would stand in my doorway on Thanksgiving morning, blocking me from entering the home I'd paid for, telling me I was no longer welcome at the table I'd set for 40 years. But that's exactly what Ashley did, with her new husband Derek standing behind her, both of them smiling like they'd just won the lottery. And in a way, I suppose they had. They'd won everything I owned. "You need to leave, Mom," Ashley said, her voice flat, rehearsed. "We've talked about this. It's time for you to find your own place." Find my own place. As if I hadn't already had one. As if this wasn't supposed to be my home too. The cold November wind cut through my thin sweater as I stood on that porch in Minneapolis, watching my daughter become a stranger. "But the turkey," I said stupidly, because my brain couldn't process what was happening. I was making the stuffing. "The family is coming at 3. "We've handled it," Derek said, stepping forward. "Ashley's got everything under control. You're not needed here anymore, Margaret. Not needed." After 68 years of being needed by everyone, I was suddenly disposable. My hands were shaking, and I realized I was still holding the grocery bag with the cranberries I'd gone out to buy that morning. The cranberries for the sauce I'd made every Thanksgiving since Ashley was born. "Please," I whispered. "It's Thanksgiving." Ashley's face didn't change. "Exactly. And we want to have a peaceful holiday for once, without you hovering, without you judging, without you reminding us every 5 minutes how much you've sacrificed." I hadn't said any of those things. I'd never said any of those things. But somewhere along the way, my presence alone had become an accusation to her. Derek reached past Ashley and plucked my house key right off my keychain. I watched it happen in slow motion, too shocked to stop him. "We'll pack up your things and have them sent wherever you end up," he said. "But for now, you need to go." The door closed in my face. I heard the deadbolt click, and I stood there on the porch of a house that my retirement savings had purchased, holding a bag of cranberries, with nowhere to go and no one to call. Before I tell you what happened next, I need you to understand something. Where are you watching this from right now? What time is it where you are? Drop a comment and let me know, because this story, what I'm about to share with you, it matters. If you've ever felt used by family, if you've ever wondered how much is too much to give, if you've ever questioned whether love should cost you everything, then this story is for you. Please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because what happened after that door closed changed everything I thought I knew about family, about strangers, and about what it really means to survive. Now, let me take you back to the beginning, to how I ended up standing on that porch with nothing. I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and hard work was the only path forward. My parents were dairy farmers who never had much, but they taught me that education was the ticket out of poverty. So I studied hard, earned a scholarship, and became a teacher. For 41 years, I taught 4th grade at Jefferson Elementary in Minneapolis. I shaped young minds, wiped away tears, celebrated victories, and held the hands of children whose parents were too busy to notice them. I loved every minute of it. I married my high school sweetheart, Robert, when I was 23. He was an electrician with steady hands and a steadier heart. We bought a modest house in Richfield, raised Ashley there, and built a life that wasn't fancy, but was ours. When Robert died of pancreatic cancer 8 years ago, I thought I'd never recover. He went so fast. 6 weeks from diagnosis to funeral. One day we were planning our 40th anniversary trip to Hawaii, and the next I was picking out his casket. Ashley was there for me during that time. She flew in from Seattle, where she'd been living with her first husband, and she held me while I cried. She helped me sort through Robert's things. She promised me I'd never be alone. "I've got you, Mom," she said. Always. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my daughter, my only child, the little girl who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms and tell me I was the best mommy in the whole world. After Robert died, I threw myself into work. Teaching saved me, gave me a reason to get up each morning. But 3 years ago, the school district offered early retirement packages, and I took one. I was 65, tired, and ready for the next chapter. I had my pension, my savings, and the house that was paid off. I thought I was set. That's when Ashley called with her news. She was getting divorced. Her husband, a perfectly nice man named Brian, whom I'd always liked, had apparently not been ambitious enough for her. She'd met someone new. Derek, a visionary entrepreneur with big ideas about changing the world through some app I never quite understood. They were moving to Minneapolis to be closer to me. They needed a fresh start. They needed help. "Mom, I know this is a lot to ask," Ashley said over the phone, her voice sweet as honey, "but Derek and I found the most perfect house. It's everything we've ever wanted. The only problem is the down payment. With my divorce and Derek's startup, we're a little short." A little short turned out to be my entire savings. Everything Robert and I had built over 40 years of marriage, everything I'd saved from my teaching career, everything that was supposed to carry me through retirement. "Think of it as an investment," Ashley said. "We'll all live together. You can have the whole basement apartment. It's got its own bathroom and everything. You won't have to worry about maintenance anymore. And you'll be right there when we have kids. You've always wanted grandchildren, right?" I did want grandchildren. I wanted them desperately. The idea of having little ones running around again, of reading bedtime stories and baking cookies, of being needed in that particular way that grandmothers are needed, it made my heart ache with longing. So I did something stupid. I sold the house in Richfield, the house where Robert and I had raised Ashley, the house where every room held a memory. I took that money, combined it with my savings, and gave it all to my daughter. Home for the down payment, plus another, home to help Derek get his startup off the ground. I kept only enough for a small emergency fund, figuring my pension would cover my modest needs. "You're the best mom in the world," Ashley said when the papers were signed. "This is going to be so great. We're going to be a real family again." The house was beautiful, I'll give them that. A 4-bedroom colonial in Edina with a big backyard and a gorgeous kitchen. The basement apartment they'd promised me was nice enough. Small. But it had a window and its own entrance. I told myself it was perfect. I told myself I'd made the right choice. Looking back, I should have known something was wrong from the first week. The way Derek looked at me like I was furniture. The way Ashley started correcting me in front of him, suddenly embarrassed by things she'd never noticed before. The way they talked about the house as ours but never included me in that ours. The erosion of my dignity happened so gradually that I didn't see it until I was already buried. It started with small requests that seemed reasonable. Could I watch the house while they went on a weekend trip? Could I handle the grocery shopping since I had more free time? Could I start dinner so it would be ready when they got home from work? I said yes to everything because I wanted to be helpful. I wanted to earn my place in their home, even though I'd literally paid for that place. Then the requests became expectations. Then the expectations became demands. "Mom, the laundry isn't done," Ashley would say, not asking why, not wondering if I'd been feeling well. Just stating it as an accusation. "Mom, you used too much electricity again," Derek would announce, waving the utility bill. "We need you to be more mindful. This isn't your house to waste resources in. Not my house." Even though my home had made it possible, even though my name wasn't on the deed because they'd convinced me it was simpler that way, the criticisms multiplied. I loaded the dishwasher wrong. I folded the towels incorrectly. I breathed too loudly when I came upstairs. I existed too much in a space I'd bought. "Since you're living here rent-free," Ashley started saying, and those words became her favorite weapon. "Since you're living here rent-free, you should really contribute more around the house." Rent-free, as if I was a charity case, as if I hadn't handed them my life savings. When I tried to remind her of the money I'd given them, she'd roll her eyes. "That was a gift, Mom. You can't hold gifts over people's heads. That's manipulative." Manipulative. My own daughter called me manipulative for remembering the home I'd given her. Derek was worse in some ways because he didn't even pretend to respect me. He'd talk about me like I wasn't in the room. "Your mother doesn't understand how business works," he'd tell Ashley while I sat 3 feet away. "Old people never do. They're stuck in their ways." I was 65 when they started calling me old. 65, with a master's degree in education, 41 years of professional experience, and apparently no understanding of how anything worked. The startup Derek was so passionate about failed within 6 months. Then the next one failed. Then the next. Each time, they needed money. Each time, I scraped together what I could from my pension. I started skipping meals to save money. I stopped buying new clothes. I gave up the small pleasures I'd allowed myself, like the occasional book or the Sunday newspaper, because every dollar I saved was a dollar they might need, and they always needed. 2 years in, Derek lost his job at the marketing firm he'd taken to pay the bills while his real work got off the ground. Suddenly the mortgage payments were too much. "Mom, we need you to help with the mortgage this month," Ashley said, just until Derek finds something new. I paid that month's mortgage. And the next. And the next. For 8 months, my pension went almost entirely to keeping them in a house I'd already paid for. I was eating ramen and peanut butter sandwiches while they ordered takeout and talked about their next vacation. Then came the worst part. The part that still makes me shake with anger when I think about it. "Mom, we need you to co-sign on this loan," Derek said one evening, sliding papers across the kitchen table. "Our credit is shot, but yours is still good. We'll make all the payments. Your name is just there to help us qualify." I should have said no. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to refuse, but Ashley was standing behind him, her hand on his shoulder, and she looked at me with those eyes. The same eyes that had looked at me from her crib, from her first-grade classroom, from her wedding day. "Please, Mom," she said. "We're desperate." So I signed. Then I signed another loan, then a credit card, then another credit card. Within a year, I had Samwi Bay, home in debt attached to my name. Debt I hadn't created, purchases I hadn't made, interest I couldn't pay. When the collection calls started, I realized how completely they'd trapped me. I couldn't leave even if I wanted to. I had no savings, no home, and now no credit. My pension barely covered the minimum payments on debts that weren't mine. I was drowning, and they were standing on the shore, watching me sink. "You're always so negative," Ashley said when I tried to talk to her about it. "No wonder Dad died just to get away from you." That sentence broke something inside me. Something that had been cracking for 2 years finally shattered completely. My husband, my Robert, who had loved me for 40 years, she'd used his death as a weapon against me. I stopped fighting after that. I stopped trying to defend myself or remind them of what I'd given. I made myself small, invisible, trying to take up as little space as possible. I ate my meals in the basement. I did their laundry and cleaned their house and watched their lives continue while mine disappeared. That's who I was by the time Thanksgiving morning came. A shadow of the woman I'd been, a ghost haunting a basement apartment in a house I'd paid for. When they threw me out that morning, I wasn't even surprised. I was just tired, so tired I could barely stand. But they didn't know what was coming. They couldn't have known. Because sometimes, when you break someone completely, when you take everything they have and throw them away like garbage, the universe has a strange way of intervening. And sometimes the person you discard is exactly the person who was supposed to survive. I walked away from that house in a daze, still clutching the grocery bag with the cranberries. The morning was cold, gray, typical Minneapolis November. I was wearing only a thin sweater because I'd just run out to the store. My purse was inside. My phone was inside. My coat, my wallet, my medications, everything was inside that house they'd locked me out of. I had nothing except the cranberries and Bay Fai Bonmui Ba in my sweater pocket. Change from the grocery store. Enough for a cup of coffee? Maybe. Not enough for a meal? Not enough for a bus ticket? Not enough for anything that mattered. I walked because I didn't know what else to do. My feet carried me toward downtown, though I couldn't have told you why. Maybe because there were people there. Maybe because I couldn't stand to be in that neighborhood any longer. Surrounded by nice houses full of nice families who would never know that on the street they drove down every day, an old woman had just been thrown away. The wind picked up as I walked. I could feel it cutting through my sweater, numbing my arms, my hands, my face. I passed a gas station and thought about going in just to get warm, but the cashier was watching me through the window with suspicious eyes. An old woman, shivering, carrying a grocery bag. I looked like trouble. I looked like a homeless person, I suppose that's what I was now. The thought nearly knocked me off my feet. Homeless. At 68 years old, after a lifetime of work and sacrifice, I was homeless. I kept walking, past strip malls and car dealerships, past fast food restaurants that smelled like warmth and grease, past a school playground where children were running and laughing, oblivious to the cold in the way only children can be. I thought about my students, thousands of them over the years. I wondered how many of them would throw their mothers out on Thanksgiving. I wondered if I'd failed them somehow, failed to teach them kindness. My legs started to give out somewhere around Lake Street. I found a bench at a bus stop and collapsed onto it, my body screaming with exhaustion and cold. I wasn't dressed for this. I wasn't prepared for this. I was going to freeze to death on Thanksgiving, and my daughter was going to carve a turkey in a house my money had bought. The irony was so bitter I almost laughed. Almost. A bus pulled up and the doors opened. The driver looked at me expectantly. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. After a moment, he shrugged and drove away. The next bus came 20 minutes later, same thing. I just sat there, frozen in more ways than one, unable to make my brain work well enough to form a plan. That's when I saw him. He was sitting on the other end of the bench, and I hadn't even noticed him until now. An old man, maybe 70, wearing a dirty green jacket and a wool cap that had seen better days. His beard was gray and unkempt, his shoes held together with duct tape. A homeless man. He was watching me with eyes that seemed too sharp, too aware for someone in his condition. "You're not dressed warm enough," he said. His voice was surprisingly clear, not slurred or mumbling like I might have expected. "I know," I said. The words came out as barely a whisper. "Where's your coat?" "Inside. My daughter's house. She locked me out." He nodded slowly, as if this made perfect sense to him, as if old women getting locked out by their daughters was something he saw every day. Maybe it was. "Family," he said, and the word held a lifetime of disappointment. "Thanksgiving." I replied, and somehow that one word said everything. We sat in silence for a while. The cold kept seeping into my bones. I could feel my fingers going numb, my toes losing sensation. I knew from the health classes I'd taught over the years that this was dangerous. Hypothermia could set in within hours at these temperatures, faster for someone my age. But I couldn't seem to make myself care enough to move. "Here," the man said suddenly. He was holding something out to me. A granola bar, crumpled, probably from a food shelf or a dumpster, but sealed and safe. "You should eat." "I can't take your food," I said automatically. "You need it." "I need it less than you do right now," he said. "Go on. Take it." I took the granola bar. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely tear it open. I ate it in 3 bites, and it was the best thing I'd ever tasted. Not because of the flavor, but because someone had given it to me. Someone with nothing had given me something. "I'm Margaret," I said. "I know," he said, and then he smiled at my confused expression. "Not like that. I just mean I know your type. Teacher, right? Something like that. Spent your whole life giving to others. Put your family first. Always sacrificed. And look where it got you." Tears started rolling down my cheeks. I hadn't even realized I was crying. "I gave them everything," I said. $300,000. My house. My savings. My pension. I gave them everything, and they threw me out like trash. "That's how it works sometimes," he said. "The more you give, the less they value it. The more you sacrifice, the more they expect. Until one day, they've taken everything, and they're angry at you for having nothing left." He understood. This stranger, this homeless man with duct tape on his shoes, understood me better than my own daughter did. "What's your name?" I asked. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me." He studied me for a long moment. "James," he said finally. "James Harper." We talked for the next hour, huddled on that bench as the temperature dropped. James told me about his life. He'd been an accountant, if you can believe it. Had a wife, 2 kids, a nice house in St. Paul. Then his wife got sick. Cancer. He spent everything on her treatment, burned through savings and retirement, and eventually, their home. She died anyway. His children, grown by then, had blamed him for not being able to save her, for losing the inheritance they'd counted on. They'd cut him off completely. That was 12 years ago. He'd been on the streets ever since. By choice. In some ways, he'd had opportunities to rebuild, he said, but something in him had broken when his children abandoned him. He'd given up on people, given up on himself. But he was still here, still surviving, still offering granola bars to strangers on cold days. Why? I asked. Why help me? You don't know me. Because someone helped me once, he said. When I first ended up out here, I was ready to give up, walk into the river and be done with it. But this woman, she found me sitting on the stone arch bridge in the middle of the night. She sat down next to me, didn't say a word for the longest time. Then she handed me a cup of coffee and said, "The world is cruel, but not everyone in it is." That stuck with me, that one moment of kindness. It kept me going. He looked at me with those sharp eyes. "You're supposed to keep going too, Margaret. I can see it. You're not done yet. There's something you're supposed to do. Someone you're supposed to help. Something that hasn't happened yet." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that there was a purpose to my suffering, a reason I was sitting on this bench in the cold, instead of lying down somewhere to die. But I was so tired, so empty, so ready to be done. "I don't know how to keep going," I admitted. "I don't have anything left." James reached into his jacket and pulled out something unexpected. A cell phone, old, cracked screen, but clearly functional. "I'm going to make a call," he said. "And then you're going to trust me. Can you do that?" "I don't understand." "You don't need to understand. You just need to trust me. Can you?" I looked at this homeless man with his duct-tape shoes and his cracked phone and his eyes that held secrets I couldn't begin to guess. Every logical part of my brain said this was dangerous, that I shouldn't trust strangers, that nothing good could come from this. But the logical parts of my brain had also told me to trust my daughter, had told me to give her my money, my home, my life. And look where that had gotten me. "Yes," I said, "I can trust you." James smiled, and for just a second, he didn't look homeless at all. He looked like someone else entirely. Someone I couldn't quite place. He dialed a number and spoke quietly into the phone. His body turned away from me so I couldn't hear what he said. The call lasted less than a minute. When he hung up, he stood and held out his hand. "Come with me," he said. "There's somewhere you need to be." I took his hand and let him pull me to my feet. My legs screamed in protest, my joints aching from the cold. But I followed him because I had nothing left to lose. James led me through streets I didn't recognize, past warehouses and industrial buildings, deeper into a part of Minneapolis I'd never seen. I should have been afraid, but I was past fear. We walked for maybe 20 minutes until we reached an old brick building with no signage. James knocked on a metal door. 3 times, then 2, then 1. Some kind of code. The door opened, and warmth poured out like a wave. Inside was a large open space that had been converted into something unexpected. Tables and chairs were set up across the room. People were everywhere, many of them clearly homeless, but others looked like ordinary citizens. Volunteers moved between tables carrying plates of food. The smell of turkey and stuffing and pumpkin pie filled the air. It was Thanksgiving dinner. A Thanksgiving dinner for people who had nowhere else to go. "Welcome to Harper House," James said. And then he walked away, disappearing into the crowd before I could ask any questions. A woman approached me immediately. She was in her 40s, well-dressed, with kind eyes and an efficient manner. "You must be Margaret," she said. "I'm Sarah," James called ahead. "Let's get you warmed up and fed." She led me to a table, wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, and brought me a plate of food that made my eyes fill with tears. Real turkey. Real mashed potatoes. Real Thanksgiving dinner. "I don't understand," I said. "What is this place? Who was that man? How did he know to bring me here?" Sarah sat down across from me and smiled. "James is one of our most valuable scouts. He finds people who need help, people who've been abandoned by family, who've lost everything, who are standing at the edge and need someone to pull them back. But he's homeless. He's living on the street." Sarah's smile widened. "Is he?" Before I could process that question, someone else approached the table. A man in his 60s, dressed casually but expensively. He had silver hair and the confident bearing of someone used to being in charge. "Margaret Holbrook," he said, sitting down beside Sarah. "I've heard a lot about you." "I don't." "I'm sorry. Who are you?" "My name is William Harper. James is my older brother." I stared at him, trying to make this fit with what I knew. "Your brother? But he's homeless? Living on the street?" William chuckled. "James is worth about $400 million. He was the founder and CEO of Harper Industrial until he retired 15 years ago. The homeless thing is a choice." "I don't understand." "James was destroyed when his wife died," William said, his voice softening. "When his children abandoned him, something broke. He couldn't live in the regular world anymore. Too much pain. So he gave away most of his fortune and started living on the streets. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to find genuine human connection. He wanted to find people who would show kindness without any expectation of reward." The room felt like it was spinning. "The granola bar," I whispered. "He gave me a granola bar, and I gave him nothing. I had nothing to give." "That's exactly the point," William said. "James tests people. In a way. He puts himself in the position of needing help and waits to see who offers it. Most people walk right past. Most people don't even see him. But you sat with him. You talked to him. You treated him like a human being. I didn't know who he was. That's why it matters," Sarah said. "You were kind when you thought he was nobody, when you thought there was nothing in it for you. That's the test, Margaret. And you passed." William leaned forward. "James called me 20 minutes ago and told me about you. About what your daughter did. About the money you lost. All of it. And here's what I'm going to offer you." I couldn't speak, could barely breathe. "Harper House is a foundation I run. We provide housing, legal services, and support for seniors who've been financially exploited by family members. It happens more than people know. Adult children who drain their parents' accounts, who manipulate them out of their homes, who throw them away when there's nothing left to take. We help those people rebuild." "I can't. I don't have any money. I can't pay for." "I'm not asking you to pay for anything," William said. "I'm offering you a job." "A job? You were a teacher for 40 years. You understand people. You understand what it's like to be manipulated by the people who are supposed to love you. That experience, painful as it is, makes you perfect for what we do here. We need case managers, advocates, people who can look at someone who's lost everything and say, 'I understand, because I've been there.'" He pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. "We'll provide housing. We'll get you legal help to deal with the debt your daughter put in your name. And we'll give you a purpose, not because you need to earn it, but because I think you need something to believe in again." I looked at the card, then at Sarah, then at William, then around the room, at all these people eating Thanksgiving dinner. People who'd been forgotten, abandoned, thrown away. People who'd found their way here, somehow. To this place where strangers cared more about them than their families ever had. "Why?" I asked. "Why do you do this? Why did James do this? What's in it for you?" William smiled, and I saw a shadow of his brother in his face. 20 years ago, James found me. I was the one sitting on the Stone Arch Bridge. I was the one ready to give up. He's the one who handed me a cup of coffee and told me the world was cruel but not everyone in it was. He reached across and took my hand. "This is what we do, Margaret. We find people at their lowest, and we help them climb back up. Not because we expect anything in return, but because we remember what it was like to be down there. And we know that sometimes one act of kindness can change everything." I started crying then. Really crying, for the first time since Ashley had closed that door in my face. Crying for everything I'd lost and everything I'd believed and everything I'd been so wrong about. But also crying for this. For the granola bar and the phone call, and the warmth of this room, and the kindness of strangers who cared more about me than my own blood. "Yes," I said through my tears. "Yes, I'll take the job. Yes, I'll help. Yes, I want to climb back up." William squeezed my hand. "Welcome to Harper House, Margaret. Your new life starts now." That was 3 years ago. 3 years of rebuilding, of healing, of becoming someone I didn't know I could be. Harper House gave me an apartment in a beautiful building in Loring Park, completely rent-free. The foundation's lawyers helped me address the debt in my name. It turned out what Derek and Ashley had done qualified as financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. The debt was discharged. Criminal charges were filed. They lost everything, including the house my money had paid for. I didn't feel satisfied when I heard about their foreclosure. I didn't feel vengeful when I learned Derek had been arrested for fraud. I just felt sad. Sad for Ashley, who had become someone I didn't recognize. Sad for the relationship we'd lost. Sad for the grandchildren I'd never have now. But I also felt free. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of their expectations. I wasn't making myself small to fit into their lives. I wasn't giving pieces of myself to people who would never be satisfied. I was just Margaret. Whole, complete, enough. I threw myself into the work at Harper House. I met hundreds of seniors who'd been through what I'd been through. Patricia, whose sons had sold her house while she was in the hospital. Donald, whose daughter had convinced him to sign over power of attorney and emptied his accounts. Ruth, whose entire family had systematically drained her retirement over 5 years. Their stories were my story. Different details, same pattern. I helped them see that they weren't foolish for trusting family. They were loving. And love isn't weakness. Even when it's betrayed. James stopped by occasionally. He'd still wear his dirty green jacket and duct tape shoes, but now I saw it differently. He wasn't a homeless man playing dress-up. He was someone who'd chosen a different kind of life. Someone who'd found more meaning in a granola bar shared on a cold bench than in $400 million. "You're doing good work," he told me one day. "I knew you would. You saw something in me that day." What was it? He thought for a moment. I saw someone who was broken but not destroyed. Someone who was ready to give up but hadn't yet. Someone who had one act of kindness left in her, even when she had nothing else. He smiled, that mysterious smile of his. "That's all anyone really needs, Margaret. One act of kindness. One moment of connection. One reason to keep going. Once you have that, everything else becomes possible." I think about that a lot. About how close I came to giving up that day. About how easily I could have walked right past James on that bench, or refused his granola bar, or declined to follow him to Harper House. About how one small choice changed the entire trajectory of my life. Last month, Ashley called me. I almost didn't answer, but something made me press the green button. "Mom," she said, and her voice was different. Smaller. "Mom, I need help. Derek left me. I lost my job. I have nowhere to go." I let the silence stretch between us. "Please," she whispered. "I know I don't deserve it. I know what I did to you was unforgivable. But you're my mother. You're the only one I have left." I thought about the door closing in my face on Thanksgiving morning. I thought about the cold and the fear and the absolute certainty that my life was over. I thought about a homeless man with $400 million giving me a granola bar. "I'm not going to give you money, Ashley," I said finally. "I'm not going to rescue you the way you expect to be rescued." "Mom, please." "But I am going to give you a phone number." I read her the number for Harper House Intake Services. These people help seniors who've been exploited, but they also have programs for the exploiters, people who want to understand why they did what they did, people who want to break the pattern before they do it to someone else. I'm not. I didn't mean to. "Yes, you did," I said quietly. "You knew exactly what you were doing. But that doesn't mean you have to keep being that person. That's what I've learned, Ashley. We're not defined by our worst moments. We're defined by what we do after them." I could hear her crying on the other end of the line. "Will you ever forgive me?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I'm working on it. Not for you. For me. Because carrying hatred is too heavy, and I've already carried enough weight for both of us." I hung up before she could respond. I don't know if she called Harper House. I don't know if she's working on being a better person. That's her journey, not mine. My journey brought me here, to this moment, to this story I'm sharing with you. If you're watching this, and you're being used by family, if you're giving everything and receiving nothing, if you're being made to feel like a burden in your own life, please hear me. You deserve better. It's not selfish to protect yourself. It's not ungrateful to want to be treated with dignity, and it's never too late to walk away from people who don't value you. I was 68 years old when my daughter threw me out on Thanksgiving. I was 68 when I met a homeless millionaire on a park bench. I was 68 when my whole life changed. You're never too old for a new beginning. You're never too broken to be rebuilt. You're never too lost to be found. Sometimes the strangers we meet are kinder than the family we're born with. And sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover who you really are. That's my story. That's my revenge. Not against Ashley, not against Derek, but against the part of myself that believed I wasn't worth fighting for. I was wrong, and if you believe that about yourself, you're wrong too. So wherever you're watching from right now, whatever time it is, whatever you're going through, remember this: the world is cruel, but not everyone in it is. One act of kindness can change everything. And you, whoever you are, you're not done yet. Not even close. Thank you for listening. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're still watching, if you made it all the way to the end, drop a comment and tell me your story. Because you matter. And I want to hear it.